Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello, leader. Welcome back to the Fierce Factor podcast. It's your host, Kaylee here, and you are tuning in to episode number 238. This episode will be released the week of the 2024 presidential election. It is an interesting time. It's a time brimming with emotion. And I find myself having conversation after conversation about the overwhelming uncertainty of the future. And it's interesting to think about that because the truth is, regardless of what's happening around us, there has never and there will never be absolute certainty about the future. We don't know what tomorrow will bring or if we will even be here for it. And this is an important distinction to make because when we talk about predictions for the future, it's not actually the future we're preparing for. Instead, we're using our fears or optimism, depending on your frame, to make decisions today that will impact our future. So essentially, the future itself is not the lever we need to impact. It's instead about the choice of how we decide to show up today that will ultimately become our future. Interesting to think about. So I chose to record this episode and to talk about my vantage point and how I am personally navigating through this time and advising our clients at KLC to prepare for the future by taking control of their perspective today. So today we'll dive into 3 core areas to really talk about navigating the uncertainties of today to prepare for the future. We're going to talk about the collective energy, essentially what's happening now. We're going to talk about my predictions for the state of consumerism in an AI-driven environment. And we're going to talk about tools for navigating personally and professionally through chaos. So first, let's get level set about what the heck is going on. So if you're feeling like there is chaos happening, like a tornado all around you, you are not alone. I'm having conversations with women daily who question if they're crazy to think that everyone seems a little over emotional, overstimulated, and kind of out of touch with reality. And I'll share that this has absolutely been true for me. Many people I interact with are finding a very hard time emotionally self-regulating through what would generally be common challenges. There's just like a buzz of nervous energy in the air regarding, I don't know if it's polarizing views around the presidential election, which certainly will have implications for small business owners one way or another. And P.S., I wrote an article outlining these implications and how to communicate to your team. So I will link that up in the show notes. And while inflation is coming down, it's lowering from an all-time high. So it's still through the roof. Every cost in our world has gone up, from gas to food to employees to furniture. And guess what? Our customers, they don't want to pay more, right? So there are feelings of employee entitlement among business owners. And I think it's because of the same confused, overwhelmed, and pent-up feelings that our employees are also feeling. And I get it. Listen, here's how it goes down in times of pent-up pressure. I had a conversation with a client this week that went like this. She said to me, Kaylee, I'm at a breaking point and I am just wondering if it's even all worth it. So she explains how she was crying in the pantry while making her lunches for the kids, and her husband calls and asks how she's doing. So she tells him about one incident, and in some version of these words asks, is that really making you that upset? And she said, no, this isn't. Like, it's not the one thing, but it's one incident that was really getting her down. It's one thread that's pulling on the ball of yarn on a series of events. And if it was just one isolated disappointment, of course she could handle it. But it's one that bleeds into 2, that becomes 3, and suddenly it's a full stack of dominoes tumbling down right before her. We had another client who made a modification to a skincare product she formulated, and you would have thought the entire community was plagued. The local Facebook moms group went into uproar with some 100 plus comments about how upset they were. And an employee saw it and started to recoil, and her manager had to spend a day of putting out fire drills. And then she came to our client in tears, ball of yarn, right? And here's the thing, the world is changing faster than ever. We're faced with realities we never expected to experience as a society in this age of digital information. We're alone faced with 60,000 thoughts a day, and that's just what's going on in our head. And in an era where AI will continue to expedite the pace of reality, the expectations to conform to a new way of doing things will continue to expand. So here's the bottom line. Now is the time to step up and lead. Last night during our final CTS call, a few of the students were talking about their newfound trust in themselves and their commitment to staying true to their old school beliefs in results first. One owner talked about how the vast majority of women in her community have been conditioned to ask for BOGO filler syringes or talks by the unit versus areas, or instead of really coming to solve conditions or ask about outcomes or results. So before going through CTS, she talked about how she felt just this immense pressure to conform, but not anymore. And honestly, this was just music to my ears, because here's my prediction about generative AI. It's a useful tool. I use it daily to help me with efficiencies, inspiration, templates, connecting data points for knowledge. But when I look into my 2025 to 2030 crystal ball, and you all know my predictions are always spot on, I see the future being all about connection, all about human connection, meaning an AI-powered chatbot can handle an initial interaction, but will never have more than a transactional conversation with your client. AI can help you go faster without a doubt, but the differentiator in converting business with high net worth spenders and people who care about results is going to be about going deep. In fact, I think we've gone way too far and tried to create e-commerce strategy for every local business. I was in church last week and my pastor said, we're launching the 1 mile challenge. Our goal as a church is to touch every single household in a 1 mile radius by Christmas. And it got me thinking, what kind of strategy would it take to make a connection with every single human within a 1 mile radius? A very targeted grassroots approach, knocking on doors, shaking hands, being active in the community, showing up at events, sponsoring local groups, perhaps using geo-targeting and hashtags on Instagram to find local consumers. Slow and steady. It's old school, really. A mentor of mine used to always say to me, Kaylee, when they zig, you zag. The world doesn't need one more business coach walking, talking, mimicking what everyone else is saying. They need different. They need Kaylee. And different is what catches attention. So as AI continues to optimize transactional interactions, as the market asks for BOGO filler syringes, we zag by being focused on relationships and connection. I've thought a lot about this lately, particularly as food prices have skyrocketed. And for me, I want to have an excellent experience when I go out to eat. I don't want to be treated like a number. I want to be treated like my business is important to the place that I'm spending my money at. When I was in college, I worked for a little diner on the Bay. It was a breakfast and lunch spot that was famous for their schooners of beer and Bloody Marys and the views, and of course, the cute servers. Well, I had these regular clients that would come in every single day. And they would ask to sit in my little section, and we built relationships. We would set them up with a house account, meaning I wouldn't bring them a bill at the end of their meal. I just put it on their tab, and then the restaurant would bill them at the end of the month. And I got to the point where I knew which breakfast was on order for what particular day of the week. And these folks would spend essentially, if you think about it, a third of their budget for their daily meals with one restaurant. Now imagine if every client you had spent 1/3 of their health and beauty budget with you. It's such a good reminder that good business is old school. So in practical terms, How do you navigate personally and professionally through this chaos? In other words, in a high-strung, fast-paced, speed-driven society, how do you increase your impact, build a sustainable business, and not burn out along the way? Well, for me, it all comes back to managing my mind. This is where I am sowing a connection with myself as a leader and my willingness to show up for my business, because there's a lot of outside noise and pressure to conform. You know this. And if you aren't convicted to prioritize the things that truly matter, to focus on your craft, and to set and honor firm boundaries around what you stand for, you will get distracted and you will gumby around, or you will bend until you break. Building a business is hard. But at the end of the day, why do we even do what we do? Why do the hard? It's not actually for the money, is it? It's for the belly laughs, the team, the camaraderie, connecting with clients, the challenge of improving yourself, and the magic of turning a dream into an impact-driven business. Our life is really just a series of snapshots, and you're in one right now at this very moment. Will you remember this moment? How can we be more present in each snapshot so that we enjoy all of the human experience? I was at my 16-year-old Cooper's lacrosse parent meeting last week, and the coach said to the boys, you only have so many team huddles, bus rides, wins, losses, and then it's gone. Enjoy the game. It's hard. And it's going to be very challenging to grind through the unsexy work if you don't love the game. Now, isn't that the damn truth? I'm pretty fed up with TikTok business coaches talking about all the things that you don't know and why your business is going to fail. The only critical KPI is your love for the damn game, to get up and to keep playing it. It's time to connect and plug in, to stay committed to your craft. While you may not know what tomorrow will bring, you have one choice in the present moment, and that is to take responsibility for your part in the process of building what you desire to build. Okay, leader, I hope this gives you some perspective to think about in preparation for what the future has in store for you. I'll chat with you same place, same time next week. Listen, leader, if you're vibing with me here, hang tight, because I have a brand new resource for you. You are a successful, confident, powerful woman who just isn't into being average. No, you have a calling, and part of that calling is requiring you to level up. And I know that if you're working across the next $1 million milestone in your business, you need to be in the right circles. And perhaps that's why you found us. I'd love to invite you to join The Blueprint, a weekly resource for inspired, provocative thinkers who are taking this conversation to the next level. Get access to free business tools, podcast supplements, guideposts, and direct communication with me and my expert team. And of course, a masterfully curated circle of women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to klcconsultants.com/blueprint. It's time to elevate. See you there, goddess.